The official video game of the current MotoGP 2023 Motorcycle Grand Prix season is yet another bike-based game from Italian developer Milestone. We've been here before, except this time there are some significant steps forward and it feels like the biggest progression for the series in the past half-decade. Some previous hangups still remain. However, to dig deeper into the pros and cons, here's our full review. When you're stuck to a yearly release schedule, it can be very difficult to innovate year on year. It's generally accepted that 12 months isn't enough time to create a new video game from scratch. So what tends to happen is an iterative approach to the build over time. Take the iPhone. Each year, people with extremely white teeth trot onto a stage to hype up a device that has more horsepower, a slightly more detailed camera, and a new subscription bundle. In isolation, just detailed changes. But when you compare a 2-year-old iPhone to the latest one, the change becomes more obvious. Last season's MotoGP video game had the intriguing 9 historic documentary mode, but perhaps lacked updates in key areas, namely the career and online multiplayer. So, for 2023, the latest title does away with the distractions and focuses on what should matter more. New for this season are this year's riders and liveries. This is to be expected, right? Well, you would think that, but it is important to note that in previous seasons, the official video game doesn't launch with the current bike models. They usually come in a post-release patch. There will still be some fine-tuning to come, but this time, the top class comes with expected aero appendages from launch. Also in the game are 2 new tracks, in the form of India's Buda International Circuit and Kazakhstan's Sokol International Racetrack. Sadly, for the latter, the actual race has been cancelled, but the track remains in the game, reminding us of Finland's Kaimi Ring, which was in MotoGP 21 and 22, only for the event to collapse before the riders took to the track. It definitely feels like MotoGP games are starting to become preservers of events that may never actually see the light of day. Kudos to the team for being able to add them so quickly. There's also, for the first time, dynamic weather flag-to-flag rules. If a race starts in the dry and then it starts to rain, you can visit the pit lane to swap bikes to one fitted with rain tires. However, the pit lane process is sadly automated. And as for Moto2 and Moto3 categories, a race stoppage is enacted under those conditions. The system works pretty well too, with it randomly spicing up career events, especially if you are taking part in a longer race distance. Now, if you want to be brave, you can stay out, though your AI-powered rivals may not all visit the pit lane at the same time either. Also, accurately representing the series, you can now do 50% length sprint races on every weekend, or alternatively, switch them off. It's up to you. However, while these additions are very welcome, some things remain constant, such as the riding experience. Now, to be clear, there are some clear changes from MotoGP 22. Chiefly, there are some artificial intelligence assists, which don't act like an auto brake or throttle system, but instead are a helping hand, only allowing you to pin the throttle when the time is right. And while it feels a bit odd at first, we can say that it is a worthy innovation that hopefully only gets better from here. One thing that still remains in the game is the aggressive tendency to stop you while braking, yet mercifully, you can tune this out through setup work, and the guided option remains specifically to reduce this effect. There's also a tendency now for the bike to feel a bit rigid at corner exit when applying power. There seems to be less compliance, as if the stature of the chassis becomes frozen as soon as you hit the throttle. And if you get on power a bit too early, the rear tire isn't breaking away like you would expect, but rather the front pushes wide as the frame rises, and there are times where it feels like the AI don't suffer from that at all. However, once you've attuned and added some of the aforementioned setup work, we believe the riding experience has advanced over the previous installment. Now, let's talk about the AI. Your AI rivals sometimes look like they're bobbing up and down like a rubber duck at sea, especially during the first lap. They can also be a bit erratic, sometimes weaving in a straight line during a qualifying session, and at the beginning of a race, they appear to be teaming up against you to push you off the track. Around Sokol, they seem to be a lot quicker relative to your difficulty level, and they do take some unorthodox racing lines in Thailand. If you find the right level of assist, competitive skill level, and learn the tracks, with time, there's still some fun to be had, and we just hope that the AI behavior is refined with further updates. Despite a few reservations on the on-track behaviors, the new modes pull the game around. For the first time in several years, there's a refreshed career mode. If you're one to purchase the MotoGP titles to enjoy a single-player playthrough, then you're in for a treat. Under the skin, things are similar. There's no big feature such as a rider market due to what we believe is a licensing restriction, but the design has been given a lick of pain. The social media apping wall is mostly superficial but could potentially impact contract negotiations, and the rival system is very compelling. Simply, you start out as a Moto3 rider, and if you beat your set goals over a handful of races, you then may get offers to join higher categories. Once there, you start out as the second rider in the team, but if you do outscore your teammate, you have the chance of becoming the lead rider. This all culminates in a turning point where you must beat them one final time to secure that status of lead rider. The same applies to the rider contracts. Once assigned for a new squad, then its current second rider becomes your rival, and you must beat them during the season. It's pretty neat. You're also constantly earning XP, rewards, and leveling up as you go. Becoming the lead rider also unlocks the ability to influence upgrades come mid-season and during preseason testing too. While hiring riders is not possible, at least this time, teams and supposedly riders, performance evolves over time up and down the grid. However, the prior option of managing team members and resource points has been removed, and there isn't a bike upgrade skill tree in any way. Instead, just performance enhancing parts that are earned through races which are applied during test sessions. It's not the only mode to receive a compelling makeover either, as something that fans and us here at Traxion have been requesting for years has finally arrived. It's not cross-platform multiplayer. That is present, but it did initially arrive in 22 via a patch. No, we're talking about ranked online progress. A new game mode, LiveGP, works like daily races you may be familiar with if you've ever played popular driving games like Gran Turismo 7. It's a playlist of online races which displays what's coming up next, and at set times of when you can participate. Do well, and you rise through up to 13 ranking levels. Each time you do enter an event, you are placed against others within a similar rank. It's a first for a motorcycle game, and it's a very welcome addition, as simply racing in standard lobbies lacked any incentive. So, what's our verdict? We're still a little uncertain if the MotoGP games can deliver that ultimate riding experience when considering purely the physics, but then you pull off a clean fast lap at Mugello and everything's okay again. There's a refreshing depth to MotoGP 23 thanks to the more changeable conditions, new content, revised career, and potentially long-term online system. If you can find the right personalized setup, this is a worthy upgrade for MotoGP fans. Just don't expect to be the next Pecco Bagnaia immediately. From the possible scores of avoid, consider, wishlist, and buy now, our verdict is wishlist. We'll be having more motorcycle gaming content throughout the year, so subscribe to stay up to date.